What's up guys? Welcome back to the poker vlog. This is episode number 40. It's an extremely special episode. I play a session of 2-5 at the Red Rock. But before we get into that, I want to go over something really quickly. A lot of people have been messaging me, asking me questions about getting a poker coach. And while I think a poker coach can be helpful, there's just a ton more value in joining a poker training site. So if you take Upswing, for example, you have one of the world's best poker players giving you a complete cash game strategy for $40 to $50 a month. If you compare that to a good 2-5 coach, a good coach will cost maybe 80 to 100 or more dollars per hour. So for me, it's kind of a no-brainer. A few of the things that stick out about Upswing's course, it's called the Poker Lab. One of them is the pre-flop strategy guides. So these guides will tell you exactly what to do pre-flop. It'll tell you which hands to open with from each position, which hands to 3-bet and 4-bet with. And another thing is the 4 categories of hands that you'll have post-flop. So Doug goes over these 4 categories and he tells you exactly what to do with each one of them. So it's stuff that is really, really helpful. It's going to give you a huge edge. It's going to be most beneficial to players who are beginner or intermediate level, but I just think that there's no way that you're going to purchase it and not get your money back and a lot more in a relatively short period of time. So check it out. I'll have a link down below in the description box. This is stuff that took me years to try and figure out on my own, and I'm still trying to figure it out. So I've been studying it a lot lately. I'm playing with a lot more confidence. It feels like Doug is right there with me. Jeez, this is actually a tough spot.
Brad,
holy shit.
You have to jam.
How did you get in here?
It's not important right now, but you have to go all in.
I've got 7 high, I missed everything.
I know, but he's weak. Trust me.
Okay.
Yes! I told you! I told you that would work! Did I not tell you?
Yeah!
By the way, start locking your back door. Just a tip. Friendly reminder. Keep doing you though, you're doing great. You're doing a great job.
It's great for when I'm playing poker, but other times it's a little bit weird. Should I get the name brand pickles? Or should I get the 2-for-1? Go for value.
Attention service desk.
Thanks.
2.
Let me know if the music's too loud. I can turn it down to a more favorable level.
No. Raise it.
Yeah, the cat doesn't really like him very much. But my results have been really good lately, so I mean, I guess it's okay. If you guys are interested in becoming a member of Upswing and purchasing the Poker Lab, I'll have a link down below in the description box. I highly recommend it. All right, let's go ahead and get into the episode. Thursday, September 28th, heard the game is good at Red Rock, so that's where I'm off to. We get called for the game, buy in for 1,000, and take our seat. A few hands into the session, we pick up 4-3 of clubs in the big blind. My friend opens the 15 from under the gun +1. The player under the gun +2 calls, he folds to us. It's only 10 more. We're getting 3.5 to 1, and we have an opportunity to beat my friend, so we toss in 2 more red chips. The flop comes Ace-5 deuce, all clubs. We flop the straight flush. Just kidding, we're not that lucky. Maybe if we had the initials AN, we'd be able to do that. When your parents give you the initials BO at birth, this is the flop you're more likely to get. I check, the pre-flop razor checks, and the player under the gun +2 bets 35. I consider raising. I have a pair with a backdoor flush draw. I do have blockers to pocket threes. It's unlikely the opponent is going to have 2 pair or better. There are only 2 combinations of king 10 suited available, 3 combos of pocket 10s, 1 combo of pocket threes. He didn't 3-bet pre-flop, so we can rule out pocket kings. He most likely has a 1 pair hand or perhaps a draw, and raising him could put him in a tough spot. We're fairly deep. There are several cards that can improve our hand on the turn. Folding's also okay, but it seems a little too nitty, so I just call, thinking I might check raise the turn instead of check raising the flop. The pre-flop raiser folds, so now we're heads up. The turn is the 5 of diamonds, no help to us. I check, the opponent checks. The river is the 7 of hearts, again, no help. We've got very little showdown value. I contemplate betting big as a bluff, but I do beat all missed straight draws. And this player might have checked back the turn for pot control, planning to call a bet on the river. With that in mind, I check. He checks, then rolls over king queen offsuit. I'm surprised he didn't try to get 2 streets of value with a hand that strong. Shortly after, I pick up pocket 6s under the gun +1. The player under the gun limps in. This is a borderline hand for me from this position. Sometimes I'll fold it if the game is tough and there's a lot of 3-betting. Here I raise to 20. The button calls, as does the big blind and the limper. The 4 of us see a flop. It's 9-6-3 with 2 hearts. We've got middle set. It checks to us. We bet 50. It's almost 2/3 the size of the pot. I bet fairly large because I'm up against multiple opponents. There are several draws, and this board shouldn't have connected very well with the majority of my range. So there's a decent chance at least one opponent will be able to call, and someone may even raise, thinking that most of the time I'll have air or an overpair at best. The big blind ends up being the only caller. The other 2 players fold. His most likely hands are draws, some combo containing a 9, or perhaps he has a pocket pair like 7s, 8s, or 10s. We're heads up, and the turn is the 10 of hearts. The big blind checks. This is the worst card in the deck for us. A large portion of his range is going to consist of a flush draw or 8-7. I'm on the fence about betting or checking. Ultimately, I check. The dealer puts out the 4 of hearts on the river, another bad card. The opponent checks, we check back. Luckily, he turns over 10-7 of diamonds. We win with the 6-high flush. So he had one of the very few hands we might have been able to get some value from on the turn had we played less cautiously. 2 hands later, we pick up ace-king of hearts in the big blind. The player under the gun +1 raises to 15. 2 players call. We're definitely going to raise. We 3-bet to 85. We arrived at this sizing because it's 3 times the initial raise plus 1 increment of that bet for every caller in between. We've added a little more because we're playing the hand from out of position. The pre-flop raiser calls, everyone else folds, we're heads up. The flop is ace-10-6 rainbow, great flop for us. We have top pair, top kicker with a backdoor flush draw. I reach for chips, planning to bet less than half the pot. Before I can put the chips in the middle, the opponent folds, so I just toss in 1 red chip, and that's enough to take it down. Another 2 hands later, we have pocket 5s on the button. The player under the gun opens to 15. I hadn't seen him open all night. He's the same opponent that had king-queen offsuit when I flopped that fake straight flush. I call the 15. My friend Jeff also calls in the big blind. There are 3 of us in the hand. The flop comes 6-5-4 with 2 hearts. We've got middle set. The big blind checks. The pre-flop raiser bets 35. I imagine he's going to have an overpair a lot based on the fact that he hardly ever opens, and this time he opens from early position and follows it up with a C-bet on a board containing all low cards. There's a good chance he could also have a flush draw with 2 overs. I raise to 110, thinking that if he has either of those types of hands, he's not going to fold to a raise. The big blind lets his hand go. The player under the gun checks both of his cards, indicating he probably has a pocket pair like we suspected and doesn't remember the suits. He eventually calls for 75 more. The turn isn't bad. It's the 4 of clubs. We make a boat, and we're about to sail to a land where we've got all the money. The opponent checks. I consider betting small to string the opponent along. If he has an overpair or a flush draw, he'll probably call a bigger bet though, and this will set up stack sizes better for a river shove. Instead of betting something like 130, I bet 175, hoping it'll look more like I'm bluffing with a flush draw, pocket sevens, or some combo draw. He calls and has about 425 left. The river is a weird card. It's the ace of diamonds. I put the opponent on an overpair, so he's either going to have aces full or he's going to have an underpair to that card and is going to hate it. He checks. I'm hoping that I'm up against a hand like ace king or ace queen of hearts. I'm not going to check back a boat here. If he has aces full, then that's just great for him. I toss in one chip and announce that I'm all in. I don't get snap called, so he doesn't have me beat. I'm rooting for a call. I try to look like I'm bluffing. The opponent is kind of grumbling to himself. It doesn't seem like he connected with that ace at all. After 30 seconds, he calls. I turn over my hand. It's good. We take down nearly a $1,500 pot. It's tough to know what the other player had. I really didn't think he had an ace. He might have had kings and thought I might be bluffing with something like 9-7 of hearts, and the pot was just too big to fold, getting 2.5 to 1 on a call. Towards the end of the night, we get ace-5 of hearts in the big blind. The button straddles, it folds to me, I raise to 40. The button calls, we're heads up, and the flop comes ace-10-8 with 2 clubs. Good flop, we're probably in the lead. I'm not going to bet all 3 streets of this hand and need to choose which streets to bet or check. I check the flop. This is for pot control, plus it'll get some information out of my opponent. It gives him an opportunity to bluff with air as well. He ends up checking. Now that he's checked, it's unlikely he's going to have an ace. It's also very unlikely he's going to have a flush draw. All suited connectors from king queen down to 7-6 of clubs are going to have a straight draw to go along with the flush draw, as will one gappers from king jack to 9-7. 2 and 3 gapper hands like queen 9, 9-6, and jack 7 of clubs will also have straight flush draws. He almost definitely wouldn't check back holdings that strong. Other flush draws and straight draws he may not check back either. The turn comes out, it's the 10 of spades. If we correctly assess the situation so far and the opponent didn't drill trips on the turn, then we're probably way ahead. We've already checked one street, we're looking to get value out of our hand, but there aren't too many hands we believe our opponent can have that can call a big bet at this point. We bet 25, hoping to get called by something like king queen, king jack, queen jack, pocket nines, or worse. The button calls and is probably drawing to somewhere between 2 and 8 outs. The river is the ace of spades. It's a good card because we've improved to a full house. It's not great because some of the hands we might be able to get value from, like nines or a pair of eights or a pocket pair below eights, have now been counterfeited. It's going to be incredibly tough for us to get a call out of our opponent. Checking is fine because it allows the opponent an opportunity to attempt to bluff at the pot. It's very unlikely he'll have anything and might try to steal it if we check. He's going to check back way too often though. I take another route. This is about to get sort of complicated to explain, but I bet 100. Even though I actually do have aces full, I'm hoping it'll look to him like I have a hand with 0 value that is only repping aces full. The complete line I took looks pretty strange since I checked flop, bet small on the turn, then drilled a 3rd ace on the river, making it even less likely from his perspective that I flopped an ace. Maybe he'll call with something like king high, or perhaps we'll turn a hand that is playing the board into a bluff. He ends up just folding and we win it. In the last hand we'll go over, we have ace king offsuit, under the gun +1. The player under the gun limps. I raise to 25, it folds back to him. He calls, we're heads up. Again the flop comes ace 10-8. The player checks. He shouldn't have very many hands that will connect with this board after he limp calls pre-flop. I imagine he'll have a lot of underpairs to the board. I bet 20, he calls, the turn pairs d8 and the opponent checks again. Now that he's called the flop, I'm hoping that he limp called pre-flop with some sort of worse ace or has another hand that he isn't ready to give up with. I bet larger and toss in 60, he folds, we win our last pot of the night before racking up. It was a great session, we weren't in any tough spots, and we ran extremely well. Just cashed out here at the Red Rock, won a little over 900. It was a short session. It was great to have a decent win and not play too long, so I'm not feeling great. So I'm gonna get going. I'm gonna go home, get some rest, and hopefully I'll feel better tomorrow. That's it for this episode. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. If you have any questions or comments, let me know in the comment section. I want to give a special thanks to Doug. Thanks for coming out, man. It's been a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. I hope this little guy still likes me after this. I don't think he's a big fan after the earlier scene.
All right. Well, thanks to Andrew as well. I'll see you guys next time. Good luck at the tables.